Hi guys, and welcome to today's video where I am moving my Tropical Grey Woodlice into a new container and a slightly better setup. Before we start, I just want to say it's really hot here, so the window is open, so you may be able to hear traffic and everything, so that's just annoying. But anyway, back to the Woodlice. So their current setup is two plant pots. I think there was some wood in here somewhere. I also put this in here, so basically the crested gecko Lyra sometimes will knock off her food dish, and because her tank's so full of plants, it can be easy to miss that she has knocked it off. And basically I found this at the bottom of her tank, and it already had some Pangea in it, but because it had met the soil and it was face down, all this white fluff had grown on it, and I thought, well, the woodlice will eat this. So I popped it in here, and let's see what they've done. Oh my god! It's actually completely clear. There you go, that's why they're called the cleanup crew. That's pretty amazing. The other thing that's in here is bits of Wandering Dew plant. So in Isla's tank, her plants aren't doing very well, and some of the Wandering Dew needed chopping down, and so I just put the dead leaves in here and they break it down like they would in a tank. Because I actually have these because I needed woodlice for cleanup crew in my crested gecko tanks, but I didn't want to put all of them in case the tank sort of got overpopulated or it went completely wrong and they all died. Since then, they have bred a lot, and often I have to sell some off. So if you're ever in need of Tropical Grey Woodlice for your natural tank and you're in the UK, let me know on Instagram, or I might just post on Instagram when I'm selling some, because most of the time I get kind of overrun. Anyway, this is going to be their new container. Not particularly fancy, it is just a square box, but it's bigger than what they're currently in. Obviously, with the lid, I've already gone ahead and drilled some holes in for ventilation. Fun fact, the drill was far too heavy, so I had to use both hands, and so when I was trying to get the drill out of the plastic, it just kept spinning. Anyway, so what we're going to do first is just put down a layer of Eco Earth. And I'm just going to add some water in. With Eco Earth, it's not very good, funnily enough, it's not very good at soaking up the water. It almost just totally moves, and then you have to mix it out with your hands and it gets all messy. Now in this little plant pot here, I have loads of wood chippings, and I think this came from Isla's tank when she had a bromeliad, so deep down around the roots was wood chippings, because bromeliads like to breathe around the roots. But this wood can definitely go in here. I'm sure the woodlice will appreciate it, so I'm going to mix that in as well. I've also got this hide, so this used to be in Isla's tank as well, just a coconut hide. It's also got holes in the top, which once again I think the woodlice will like. I'm going to put that fairly deep down, and they'll get all in it. They'll probably live underneath it, and it'll probably be nice and humid in there actually. So I'm going to put that in there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is probably put the woodlice in, just tip them in, and I've been trying to figure out how to go about this without damaging them, and honestly I don't know if there's a certain way. I imagine if I'm going to do this, there's going to be people who's going to go, oh my god, you've killed them all, that's it, they're dead. But at the same time, have you ever moved anything in nature? You've probably killed some kind of insect. So I'm going to try to do the best I can, because there's going to be tiny ones and everything. The top layer of this soil, I'm pretty sure this is just woodlice poop, or at least what they've broken down, and I'm sure this will be kind of good for your tank. So you'll notice if you put any kind of substrate in with your woodlice, you'll get like a layer of this really thin dark stuff. So I bet on the time lapse that kind of looked like I was just dumping it in, but actually I was being really careful. I was sprinkling it lightly as well, so if there were any underneath, they will be able to come out. There are 2 hides made from the plant pots. So we have a little one here and then one right up against a wall. Now the actual plastic isn't that easy to look through, but at least this way we can sort of have a peek in and see how the woodlice are doing every now and again. And also they have their coconut, which I have seen them go in and out of, so they already have explored that. Just to add a few little extra things, we're just going to take a handful of these little wood pieces. Now I need to feed them. Now, one thing I feed them as like a base diet is a custodian fuel by Arcadia, which I did a review on. And I actually need some more of that and some more insect fuel. And the other day I actually did this big shop because I'll be doing a leopard gecko's natural tank soon, so that's something to look forward to. And I thought, okay, I'll get all of this and you get free delivery when you like spend a certain amount. And they didn't have custodian fuel in or insect fuel. So very annoyed because everywhere else charges like £3 to ship something that would go as a large letter. So it's really annoying. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't really have that much left. What we can do is go back to nature, go into the crested gecko tanks and see which plants are decaying so I can feed them off to these woodlice. So we're looking for old leaves and I can already see like here some of the pothos. Some of the leaves are dying. It's okay actually because the pothos can take over your tank. So things like this, that's what we're like looking for. We've got some here. Get an odd colour to just chop these off. And a really yellow leaf there. Sorry, it's hard to record when you're also trying to chop up plants. So this one goes, yeah, that one just popped off. You can also see back here like the wandering dew plants got way too tall for the tank, and actually there's loads over here. So I'm just going to cut the top off of this, and I'm trying to, oh goodbye, I was trying to cut it whilst looking through the viewfinder of this camera. Before we add in the food, I'm just going to spray this tank down. I don't usually put that much in when I do spray down the tank on its own, but since this is all sort of new, a lot of it is, and the eco earth can be quite dry, I wanted to give it quite a good spray down. And if you've watched my ecosystem video, I explain why water is actually very important for isopods, and yeah, so that should hopefully help them out. And now we're going to add in some food. So I just like to leave this food on top how it would naturally fall for woodlice. So just put some of these on top, and we're going to put in some of the last bits of custodian fuel that I have. You just pop them in here, but you don't actually have to. Like, I think you can pop them in when you have your own natural tank because you might not want to see them, but sometimes I like to just let them lay out because then you can actually see the woodlice interact with them. So we're just gonna, you'll notice the woodlice are all coming out now. Now I'm going to probably leave a little time lapse so you can watch them feed because it's pretty cool. I mean, even when I said that, when I said it's pretty cool, I thought, is it, Rebecca? Is it? This is why my sisters think I'm weird. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you've ever thought about doing a natural tank setup, I have videos in a playlist step by step on how I did it, from making the background to adding plants to adding the cleanup crew. The cleanup crew I think is essential to having a good ecosystem. They pretty much run the whole thing. Once again, I'd highly recommend checking out my ecosystem video because it explains it all in there. Ideally, like in my crested gecko tanks, I have springtails, woodlice and worms. Now it can be very tempting to just pick a worm up from outside or a woodlouse and think, well, these are free, I can just put them in. The only problem with that is you don't exactly know what they're bringing into your tank. Once again, I have to refer back to the ant situation when I put in that already dead worm into the ants tank and it pretty much wiped out half my colony. You don't want to be taking that risk, especially with your gecko. If your gecko sees a worm or a woodlouse, they may go and eat it. If it's been bred in captivity, you know exactly what it's been around. these have never been around like fertilisers or anything, then I know that if my gecko eats these, she'll be fine. They're actually a great source of calcium. But if your gecko eats a woodlouse from outside, who knows, it could have walked through ant killer powder and now that's inside your crested gecko. So I always think it's better to be safe than sorry and have some happy animals. So anyway, once again, thanks for watching guys, and goodbye.